Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. I'm finally back making videos after what must be about 3 weeks off now. I was doing exams, if anyone was wondering why there have been no videos for so long, but those are finally over, so I can get back now to making many videos for you guys to watch on what's going on at Liverpool. And what better way to return than the news that Liverpool have made their first big signing of the summer transfer window. We did sign Dominic Solanke about a month ago now, but this is the first signing that we've made where we can expect to see a lot of them in the first team next season, and it is Mohamed Salah from Roma for about £35-ish million. There have been a few different fees being reported. Roma said £36 million, Liverpool said £34 million, so it's unclear yet whether or not he's beaten Andy Carroll's record, but I think there's about £8 million in add-ons with that fee. So once we've won the Champions League and he's won the Ballon d'Or and Nobel Prize or whatever's required for those £8 million in add-ons to be met, he will be our record signing. And if you ask me, I wouldn't be surprised if we break that record again between now and the end of the transfer window. I think it's highly likely that Liverpool will make at least one other big money signing, considering the kind of targets that we apparently have got lined up and the kind of moves that we seem to have been making so far in the transfer window. But for now, we've made our first signing. It is Mohamed Salah, and he's going to bring a hell of a lot to the team next season, because in terms of just goals and assists, the plain numbers, he's got more league goals last season than any Liverpool player. He got 19 league goals, whereas our top Premier League scorers were Coutinho and Mane, both on 13. Obviously, that's in the Serie A, so there's a little bit of scepticism about whether he's going to be able to replicate those numbers in the Premier League. But to get a return of 19 goals in 31 league games and 11 assists from a wide position, playing wide right for Roma, is very impressive, and we do hope that he will replicate those numbers at Liverpool. As for where he's actually going to play, I think he's probably going to start out on the left wing, because I think Sadio Mane is fairly comfortable on the right wing. That's where he's been playing for most of last season, and while he played on the right wing a lot for Roma, or occasionally as attacking mid or a second striker, left wing is apparently his natural position from when he started out playing football. And in terms of what foot he's best on, I think he is left-footed, but he's pretty skilled on both feet. He can score with both, he can assist on both, he can do pretty much anything on both feet, so there'll be no problem with him playing out on left wing. And I think that means that then Klopp will be able to do what he was starting to think about doing at the end of last season, where he's thinking about moving Coutinho into that midfield three, playing the number 8 role, and sort of doing what Adam Lallana's been doing, where he links up the midfield and the attacking play, and that's where I think Coutinho is the most effective. So the idea of having a front three of Salah, Firmino and Mane with Coutinho in behind them, supplying all the passes and everything, is incredibly exciting and has me really thrilled for what's going to be happening at Liverpool next season, and even just to see what's going on in pre-season. Really, I just cannot wait to see Mohamed Salah in the red shirt and see what he's got to offer, really. As for the way we actually got the transfer done, it was a very long process from when Liverpool were first linked to the player and when we apparently started submitting bids and trying to start negotiations with Roma to when we actually signed Mohamed Salah. But I think I can sort of see why we've wanted to try and get this deal wrapped up before the transfer window actually opened, because if you compare it to some of the other transfer targets we've got, you know, Virgil van Dijk and Naby Keita, this is probably one of the easiest deals that Liverpool could actually have made, because I think Mohamed Salah, he seems to have been interested in moving to Liverpool, he seems happy to come here, and Roma didn't seem too against the idea of selling Mohamed Salah for a fee of around £35 million. So I think the idea really was to make sure that we got this deal over the line and we put our statement out before the window actually opened, so that we made a signal out to other clubs of what we were going to be about in this transfer window. Because we've shown that we are willing to sign top players, we're willing to pay top fees for those players, but we are going to get it done on our terms, because there were reports going around earlier on in the negotiation stage that Roma were going to be demanding somewhere around even £50 million for Mohamed Salah. So to see us get him for £35 million, which I think everyone could be fairly happy with, I think that's a fantastic price for a player of his quality in today's market, especially given that he's also 25 years of age now, so he's about to hit what many would consider to be the prime of his career. I think it was a fantastic way to get the deal done, and should hopefully send out that kind of statement about how we're going to try and conduct our business in the transfer window between now and the end of the summer. As for other transfer news around Liverpool, there has been a lot in the past few days. Starting off, we've had A few more developments in the Van Dijk saga. Apparently Chelsea have submitted a bid of somewhere around £68 million, which is apparently what Southampton were kind of demanding for Van Dijk. There were reports before the whole fiasco with the online apology that they were going to demand somewhere between 60 and 70 million pounds. If you ask me, that's a hell of a lot to pay for a defender, and I think Liverpool should think very carefully about whether or not they do want to pay that kind of money for Van Dijk if they choose to go back in for him, because there are other defenders on the market who could end up being actually better than Van Dijk for a much lower price. And if it's going to jeopardise getting some of our other transfer targets in this summer window, then I think we may be better off looking elsewhere than putting all that money and putting all of our eggs in one basket with Virgil van Dijk. But apparently Chelsea have submitted a bid, and it started to look like Liverpool may actually re-enter the fray for Van Dijk despite that fiasco that occurred about 3 weeks ago now. It sort of looked like we've just been letting that one lie for a little bit and letting all of the whole situation blow over, so that when everything's calmed down we can come back in and try and bid for the player again. But if Chelsea are bidding for Virgil van Dijk, then it suggests that if we do want to get him, and we have thought carefully about paying that kind of money for Van Dijk, then we will have to get our skates on if we do want to secure that signing. We've also suffered a bit of a blow in our chase for Naby Keita, because it's been now confirmed by UEFA that RB Leipzig and Red Bull Salzburg will both be able to play in the Champions League. There seemed to be a little bit of confusion over whether they'd both be allowed to play in the tournament because they're both owned by Red Bull or something along those lines. But now that's been cleared, RB Leipzig will be able to play in the Champions League. So there's a bit of fresh doubt over whether or not they'll be willing to let Naby Keita go, and whether or not he will actually push for a transfer, because obviously he'll actually be able to play Champions League football at RB Leipzig, so Liverpool can't really use that as a make weight in the deal. So I reckon we may need to bring some sort of player power into this. I think it's possible that Keita may have to try a little bit, like I reckon Van Dijk will have to do if he wants to come to Liverpool, to just force the issue a bit and tell the owners that he wants to move away from the club and he wants to move to Liverpool if we want to get that deal over the line. And if we do, it is going to be another one that is going to cost a hell of a lot of money. I think the fees being bandied out are around £50 million, and you're starting to see why I was saying that I think Liverpool will break their transfer record again this window, simply because the kind of fees that are being paid out for players, even players that aren't in the sort of world-class bracket, are absolutely huge at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool do have to start shelling out the big bucks if they want to get some top players for their new Champions League campaign. Speaking of paying big money, there's been some slightly mad news coming out of Spain. Marca, the Spanish newspaper, are reporting that Liverpool have bid £88 million for Kylian Mbappe. If you ask me, there may not be too much truth in that. I was a little bit sceptical when it was announced that Liverpool were interested in Kylian Mbappe, simply because I thought if clubs like Real Madrid are interested in him, I can't really see him going to Liverpool, because not only do Real Madrid have more pulling power in terms of attracting the player to come to the club, but they will also easily be able to outprice Liverpool in any sort of bidding war that could start to occur. But it is quite nice to see Liverpool being just mentioned in this conversation, because if you think back to 2 years ago, back when Brendan Rodgers was the manager and we were a bit sort of in limbo really in terms of where the club was going to be going, you really wouldn't expect us to be linked with players of Kylian Mbappe's ability, and also linked with players who are commanding fees that big. But until we see some slightly more credible sources talking about this, I don't think I'm going to get too excited. But it is interesting to see the rumours that Liverpool may still be going in for a striker in this transfer window. And finally, some slightly more plausible news about potential replacements for Alberto Moreno at left back. Apparently Napoli have bid £11 million for Alberto Moreno. Liverpool are going to hold out for £15 million on that, because they're starting to do this whole thing of playing hardball in the transfer window, like when they sold Benteke for £32 million and made pretty much no loss on him despite his awful performances at Liverpool last summer transfer window. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do try and hold out for that £15 million fee and get clubs to meet our valuation of Moreno. But it was interesting to see that apparently we're interested in doing a bit of a swap deal with Napoli and actually asking for, I think his name is Fauzi Ghoulam, their left back, in return for Alberto Moreno, and I think we'd give a little bit of cash their way as well, because apparently Ghoulam's valued at about £25 million, so perhaps Alberto Moreno plus £10 million would seal the deal. It's a bit of an interesting one for me really, because I think if Napoli are interested in buying a new left back, are we really going to be making any improvements on Alberto Moreno if we're buying the person that they're replacing Alberto Moreno with. You know, if they're willing to get rid of him and replacing him with Moreno, is he actually going to be any better than Alberto Moreno? But hopefully Klopp and his team will have done their scouting, and I trust them not to go in for a player that they don't think is worth playing for Liverpool Football Club. In terms of playing style, he's a very, very attacking left-back. Apparently he got something like 6 assists in Serie A last season, which is a huge for a full-back, and that's the kind of player that I think Liverpool are looking for at left-back, because the problem with James Milner at left-back this season is, while he does perform well defensively, he doesn't really offer much when going down that left flank and attacking, and given that we are a possession-based team, we play a lot of attacking football, we play with the ball a lot of the time, there's not really much being asked of the left-back in terms of defensive duties, so they do have to be able to offer a lot up front. So perhaps we will see perhaps maybe not Fawzi Ghoulam, but a player like him, a very, very attacking left-back coming into the club at some point in the transfer window. I certainly hope so, because while I do rate James Milner in the games against the big teams where there's a lot defensively asked for him, I'd quite like to see someone who's got a bit more attacking ability when we're playing against the smaller teams in the Premier League. So that's all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back soon. I'm not going to disappear for another 3 weeks with some more transfer news whenever anything else crops up. So stay tuned to the channel. If you are new around here, then hit subscribe, and why not check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel in the past. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it as well. Follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll see you in a bit. Bye for now.